How do you both guide clients who are actively saving for a home purchase while also balancing down payment growth with liquidity needs and the timing of their purchase?
Wow, there's a lot there. I mean, again, it's all a collaborative effort, right? It's all about what are your individual goals? What are, your family goals in terms of what is that house going to cost? What does retirement look like? And what other short-term goals do you have that are going to require funds? If you max out on the mortgage side, you may have to give up that big family annual trip, for example, right? Some people are okay with that, some are not. So yeah, it's all about the balance and fine tuning for each individual's, lifestyle. And, that's the whole planning piece that you do.
Yep. Yeah. I think you can see a couple common themes here. Really, it's having that discussion, understanding what your, what's a recommended number. Some people
Right.
might say 30% of your gross income should be going to your housing, hopefully not more. Typically what we see in the GTA and Vancouver and other hotspots is that it's difficult to get down to 30% unless you're making a significant amount of money. So let's
Mhm.
just understand what happens in a scenario if your mortgage happens to jump by a couple points.
Right. Right.
Do you have a backup? Now,
Yeah.
one other thing I see with a lot of clients is they'll say, I'm happy to pay this because I can, but they absolutely ignore the saving aspect of their, lifestyle. And I'm
Hmm.
sure you're seeing this right now is a lot of people are very, house rich. They have a ton of equity in their house. They might even be fully paid off and they're considered millionaires, but the liquidity in retirement is almost nil. And that's when you're
Right.
forced to look at reverse mortgages or other ways of getting liquidity, even family support. But you don't want to ignore the retirement side and the savings alongside what you have to pay for your mortgage.
Well, exactly. And when you look at what home prices have done recently, um, there's been some degradation in value. And so all of a sudden you think you've got all this money and it's built up in your home. And then, within a few months, your home value could be worth 10, 15% less, maybe even more if you're in a condo. And so that's why it's important to maintain savings at the same time that you've bought a home. I do often see when people buy their first home, priority does become the mortgage and making that mortgage payment, and savings do become secondary to that. So I can understand that and I appreciate that. And it's just the reality of a lot of the markets that are, here in Canada, especially Toronto and Vancouver, for example. But yeah, you want to kind of stay on track. And that's why it's always best to maybe not try and max out on the mortgage side and make sure you do have, to your point, that money left over at the end of the month to maintain, savings for those future goals.
Even if it's for the emergency savings, just having money on hand never hurt anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can get your emergency savings back to 3 to 6 months, whatever you're comfortable with, and you still have even a couple $100 at the end of the month, really start thinking, how can I put this to work so it multiplies over the 20 to 30 years I have before retirement?
Yep.
You'd be
Yep.
surprised how much a monthly contribution at a certain rate of investment can actually multiply.
Well, that's a good point too. It's not the amount, it's just maintaining, that consistency because, you may think, well, 50, 100, 250, a few $100s a month isn't going to go a long way. It actually does over time, right? And so you model that out. Anybody out there, don't be discouraged if you feel like it's not a lot of money left over at the end of the month. Put it away because you'll be surprised in a very short time how much can accumulate. And that 6, 12 month future self will be very appreciative that put that money aside because at some point, guaranteed, it will come in handy for something.